We are in the chapter, the ascending series of substance, and today we have to read from here in the material world everything is founded. But before that, to give you the sense of continuity, I just read out very short summary of what he has said in the earlier para. It's a very small one. It is commonly known among yogis that there are subtler planes of existence that draw away from the utter materiality of the physical world. These worlds, very generally, without going into too many details, correspond to earth, life, mind, supermind, Sat Chit Ananda. So they are graded from down up: earth, vital, mind, supermind in the middle, Sat Chit Ananda. So these are the 7 planes of consciousness. He is going according to the Vedic formula. Others go according to other formulas. Mostly it is just really limited to 5 planes of consciousness: ether, air, fire, water, earth. But here he is talking of 7 because he following the Vedic exposition. Now we read the next para. Here in the material world, everything is founded upon the formula of material substance. Sense, life, thought found themselves upon what the ancients called the earth power. Starting from it, obeying its laws, accommodate their workings to this fundamental principle, limit themselves by its possibilities, and, if they would develop others, have, even in their development, to take account of the original formula, its purpose and its demand upon the divine evolution. The sense works through physical instruments, the life through a physical nerve system and vital organs. The mind has to build its operations upon a corporeal basis and use a material instrumentation. Even its pure mental workings have to take the data so derived as a field and as the stuff upon which it works. There is no necessity in the essential nature of mind, sense, and life that they should be so limited. For the physical sense organs are not the creators of sense perceptions, but themselves the creation, the instruments, and here a necessary convenience of the cosmic sense. The nervous system and vital organs are not the creators of life's action and reaction, but themselves the creation, the instruments, and here a necessary convenience of the cosmic life force. The brain is not the creator of thought, but itself the creation. The instrument here, a necessary convenience of the cosmic mind. The necessity then is not absolute, but teleological. It is the result of a divine cosmic will in a material universe which intends to posit here a physical relation between sense and its object, establishes here a material formula and a law of conscious force, and creates by it physical images of conscious being to serve as the initial, dominating and determining fact of the world in which we live. It is not a fundamental law of being, but a constructive principle necessitated by the intention of the spirit to evolve in a world of matter. We'll go through each sentence and see what he's saying.
May I ask a question on the previous paragraph?
Yeah.
Is it relating to this world or other worlds?
Well, he's including all the worlds up to, because he's talking about all the 7 planes, the 5 planes of consciousness. No? 7 planes.
So it's all the worlds.
Yes, beginning right from the top to the bottom. Yeah.
Not Earth specifically.
Not?
Earth.
No. In fact, that's what he's saying. No? He's saying matter, life, mind. Matter is the lowest. Actually, it's not the lowest because there's something even lower than matter. Inconscient is lower than matter. There is some consciousness in matter which you can extract even. So in the inconscient, it becomes even more dense and even more unconscious. So matter, life, mind, then supermind, which is a link world, and then Satchitananda. So you are going right to the top. He is including the whole range from top to bottom. So, let's see what he's saying here. Okay, so here in the material world, everything is founded upon the formula of material substance. This is clear. I think it needs a little bit of a, because elsewhere he has been more specific. In the physical world, matter is the dominant principle, and even if life is there and mind is there in this world, they are subject to the laws and regulations and rules of matter. They have to obey the laws of matter. Mind has to obey the laws of matter. Life has to obey the laws of matter. They are limited by matter, which is dominant and saying, if you are in my country, you have to follow my laws. Okay? In the life world, life is the dominant principle. Even matter has to be subject to life. Okay? So life is the most, that means desires and satisfaction of desires. That is the most prominent in the next subtler world of prana. Then when you go to mind, it is mind that is the dominating factor. Matter and life are there, but they have to obey the laws of mind. So this is what he says. As you keep going higher and higher, exactly the same thing happens. That is what becomes a prominent thing, and all the others that are present there, they have to obey the laws of that particular plane. He has not said that here so very clearly, but that's what he said elsewhere. In great detail he has gone there. Okay, so.
Then, like, as an individual or collective, be open to the spirit, then it changes, right? The laws change. Like if we open to the spirit in matter, spirit in life.
Okay. Which part of you is opening to the spirit?
The
consciousness.
Consciousness.
So that consciousness is subject to that. But your body is still here.
Right.
That is one of the biggest problems in yoga. How to bring down that into the lower planes of consciousness. Okay? So, your consciousness is rising there, fine. But the problem is how to bring down that into this here. That is the biggest problem in yoga. That is the reason why the ascetic says, not possible to bring all that down here. This is too dense. I can't bring that down here. The light will get hidden. Yeah.
But now, like due to the descent of the supramental, has that changed? Like now, are we like, because materially itself we can see changes in the body consciousness, we can see changes in the mind of the young children, and so that action of the spirit because of the descent of the supramental is happening more spontaneously.
That's a very interesting question, and the answer would be like this, I think. Okay. Leave the supramental alone. When life is combining with matter, what is happening? You have living creatures. If life does not combine with matter, you have no living creatures. So, matter is changed by the principle of life to a certain extent. So, you have living substance. You have living matter. Okay? Now, when mind comes in also, it is introducing the principle of mind into matter, but matter is the primal important thing. Now, on the other side, if life comes down here, it is subject to life. Okay? It is subject to, matter. Therefore, it has to undergo death. Death is the rule. Okay? Then, mind also. When mind also enters here, it is still subject to the principle of matter. Therefore, there is ignorance. Okay? Now, I am going the other way around. Okay? So, when life has come down here, it has molded matter to suit a bit of the mind, a bit of life. You have living creatures. When mind comes here, mind has to submit itself to the laws of matter, so it has to create a substance which is capable of thought. That's your brain. So, now that this supermind has come down here, it is working to change matter to create a supermentalized matter. That has not yet happened. I would see it in this way. That's a process that is
We
going
don't
on.
have something to hold this supramental in form, like
It has plunged into matter and now it is working there.
working,
Yeah.
so that
And in fact, Sri Aurobindo says that it's only the supermind which has a power to dominate matter. Overmind onwards can't do it. So now this possibility of having supramentalized substance. What that will be, we'll have to see. Okay? See, that's the interesting part. The brain, what is brain? It is matter, but mentalized matter. Just like any living creature is lifed matter, if you want. Vitalized matter. So that's exactly what. So your question is a very valid one, but that supramentalized matter has not yet occurred yet. It's in the process, because even the tremendous amount of talent that children are showing, okay? In other words, that means the brain itself is becoming more and more capable of, it is matter still, but still it is undergoing a process. No?
Do you feel that this Surom that Mother speaks about, Surom,
Suram, yeah.
yeah, which is a transitional stage leading to supramental,
Yes, yes.
is that on earth in certain beings?
It depends on where you draw the line. Na? Many yogis, you can consider them Shirams. What about Sri Aurobindo and Mother themselves? They were certainly, in a sense, maybe more than Shiram. Shiram would be the, what George Brackham has called the overman. And there is a lot of controversy about that nomenclature. But anyway, it is something in between that and this. And those who are above the normal human consciousness, the yogis, some of them are at a very high level of consciousness, relatively, in the spiritual planes of consciousness. They have reached that. So that would probably be the Shiram. I would think, according to the definition, Shiram would be the man is limited to body, mind, life. Okay? The moment you go beyond the mind, you are becoming a yogi, because you are using the spiritual planes of consciousness, higher mind, element mind, intuitive mind, overmind. These are the yogis. Depending, there are so many grades of yogis, but this is they would be stationed there. That would be the source, overman, or Shiram. But the moment you go into, you stabilize your consciousness in this supermind, you are not in Shiram anymore. You are a supermental being.
So when Nolini said the Superman is already among you,
Is already?
he said the Superman is already among you. And he says it may be me, it may be you. He was joking.
but he was saying it in essence or something. Like,
Yes.
he was joking.
I think in that sense, yeah. Because in that sense, God also is here. You are also God. We are all God. So essentially, yeah, that's it.
So regarding the change in the matter due to the higher consciousness, doesn't Mother say that when we read Sri Aurobindo's books, new cells are formed in our brains? I have heard this and also read this probably something.
I don't remember her saying anywhere that. But
Something like this is there.
new cells are formed, or the old cells only get eliminated?
A certain change happens in the brain. That's for sure. The power is there in Sri Aurobindo's books that, as if your brain is rewired, as if.
Very, very likely. Very likely. Because it is true that when you read, not necessarily the first time, but you read second time, third time, fourth time, the text starts glowing with a different meaning altogether. Absolutely.
The brain does go through a change, because there are some letters of Sri Aurobindo where disciples are asking him, like, what do you think about this? And then Sri Aurobindo jokingly says that after so many years of sadhana, you still expect me to think. So the thought itself is not there. So the brain has definitely.
What I'm trying to say is that
changed.
it's not just mentalized matter anymore.
Right.
Once
It's
you are
subtleized.
exposed to his consciousness, something more than mind is already molding
Right.
the matter of your
Subtilized matter?
brain.
Can we say subtilized matter? Or we don't have a name for it?
Not subtilized matter, but maybe element matter. Because glowworms also are element matter. Okay? So you can say element matter, you can say.
But when Mother speaks about the work she was doing transforming the cells, she said that anyone who was open to that would receive those transformed cells in the body. So the body is changing.
Yeah. So, let's have a look at what he's saying. So, we just now discussed that each plane of consciousness, at its own level, its laws apply, even if the others are there. Life has to undergo the laws of matter here. That is the reason why, even when God has come down here, he has to undergo imprisonment in matter. Because it is the density of matter that is dominant. So he has to definitely, he's doing that willingly because he himself has made the laws. But he hides, he has to hide in matter and come out. But this is not a pretension. It's a real imprisonment. It's not a pretension. Okay, so having said that, now we come to the sense, life, thought found themselves upon what the ancients called the earth power. Okay, so sense, life and thought. Life is vitality, thought is mentality, sense is the nerves. What he's saying afterwards, he will say it's the nerves. Okay, it's a combination of matter and vitality. So that is called sense. Found themselves upon what the ancients called the earth power. Start from it, obey its laws, accommodate their workings to this fundamental principle, limit themselves by its possibilities, and if they would develop others, have even in that development to take account of the original formula, its purpose and its demand upon the divine evolution. So matter is the one that the starting point and the determining point up to at least the mind level. They have to undergo the laws of matter. Okay, so and the laws of matter he has discussed earlier. Okay, you remember the laws of matter? He has told you what the laws of matter are. Remember what they are? Ignorance, fixity of laws, rigidity, and
Ignorance, inertia.
division. These are the laws of matter. He has told you that in the earlier chapters. Okay. In the chapter is the knot of matter. In knot of matter, he has told you that these are the, and he has shown you how ignorance operates and how division operates, and also how fixity of laws, no freedom, absolutely rigid laws that apply. So I have called have even in the development to take account of the original formula, its purpose and its demand upon the divine evolution. The sense works through the physical instruments. The sense works through the physical instruments. Physical instruments, eyes, ears, nose, skin, tongue. Okay. The life through a physical nerve system. There you are. Okay. Life through the physical nerve system. Combination of life and matter. And vital organs. The mind has to build its operations upon a corporeal basis. Exactly what we discussed just now. And use a material instrumentation. So, material instrumentation, the brain. Okay. Even its pure mental workings have to take the data so derived as a field and as the stuff upon which it works. There is no necessity in the essential nature of mind, sense, life that they should be so limited. Okay? For the physical sense organs are not the creators of sense perceptions. Now, this is interesting. We normally think that the organs are giving us sense perceptions. Then, in another chapter which we are doing elsewhere, let me finish this, then I'll come back to it, okay? There is no necessity for the physical sense organs are not the creators of sense perceptions, but themselves the creation, the instruments, and here a necessary convenience of the cosmic sense. The nervous system and the vital organs are not the creators of life's action and reaction, but themselves the creation, the instruments, and here a necessary convenience of the cosmic life force. The brain is not the creator of thought, but itself the creation, the instrument, and here a necessary convenience of the cosmic mind. We'll stop here. Okay? So, what is science is saying? Brain is creating thoughts. Srimdar is saying wrong. He is saying it is mind that is creating the brain for its own convenience here in the physical world. It can operate without the brain. That's what he's saying. He's saying that your senses are perceiving things and collecting data from the physical world. You think that without the senses you can't collect data? Wrong. Because there are subtle senses. You can develop your... that is in the earlier chapter where we are doing also there. He says, I'll give you that because then you will understand what he's saying here. He says, reason is the highest faculty in man. Okay? But it has a double role. It has a pure role and a mixed role. Okay? The mixed action is when it is using sense data. Reason is using sense data and reasoning upon it and getting scientific knowledge. Okay? But when reason does not depend upon sense data, okay, then its action is pure. Did you follow? I can think about, without depending on what I have seen, I can think about immortality. I am not saying immortality anywhere, but the mind is capable of thinking of immortality, omnipotence, omnipresence you can think of. So that's a pure action of mind. Clear? So it can operate in itself and it can also use the sense data and build on that. So it's got a double function. Okay? When I am seeing the sun rising, my senses are seeing the sun rising, the senses are telling me the sun is rising. But I can go beyond sense knowledge and I can say reason and I work out that it is not the earth going, not the sun going around, but the earth going around. This is his example, not mine. So, this is, you are going to pure action of the reason. Similarly, he says, there is the manas. The manas is the sense mind. And the sense mind has again a double action. It can use sense data or it need not use the physical senses. Okay? When it does not use the physical senses, for instance, he has given an example also in that chapter. He says, when I am seeing somebody out there getting angry or laughing, I am using my senses to understand him. But I don't need to use that. When I look into myself and I see that I am angry, am I using sense data? No. So that is the pure action of sense mind, manas. So he says manas can operate without the sense data. This is what he is saying. That's what he is saying in this para. So it is manas which is creating the senses for its own convenience here. Okay? Thought can also occur. In fact, that's what happens for Sri Aurobindo. Mind is silent, but the thoughts are coming. Okay? Mind has been created by thought power for its own convenience here in the physical world. Okay? Life has created sense organs for its own convenience in the physical world, but you don't need them. You can do without them. Okay? When a psychic is looking at somebody, okay, and knowing what he is thinking, he is getting knowledge without sense organs. So that's a manas which is acting purely. So it's the other way around. Senses are not supplying data to the mind, but the mind itself has created the senses and created the brain. That's what he's saying. It's the other way around. It is not, science is telling you matter has created life and matter has created mind. Srimad is saying exactly the opposite. He's saying it's the other way around. It is mind that has created life and life that has created matter. Okay. For us it is very clear. Matter has created life. But that is in the evolution. But the real truth is that has created all this. In other words, what he says is that if spirit disappears, the world is bound to disappear. Because that's a real cause. But if world disappears, spirit won't disappear. So that is a real creator. Okay? Matter is a creator, but it's a secondary creator. That is the primary creator. So it's the other way around. That's what he's saying in a different words here. Same thing. Okay? So, I'm reading that sentence again. Okay? Then you will understand what he's saying. Sense, life, thought, the three levels, found themselves upon what the ancients called the earth power. Start from it. Obey its laws. Accommodate their workings to this fundamental principle. The fundamental principle we have already seen of matter is, he's saying principle, but he means those three laws, okay? The ignorance, fixity, rigidity. Inertia. That's the word he uses. And finally, division. So that's a principle, fundamental principle. Limit themselves by its possibilities, and if they would develop others, have even in that development to take account of the original formula of matter, its purpose and its demand upon the divine evolution. So everything, even the divine himself comes down and submits himself to the laws of matter. Okay? The sense works through physical instruments, the life through the physical nerve system, and the vital organs. The mind has to build its operations upon a corporeal basis and use a material instrumentation. Even its pure mental workings have to take the data so derived from as a field and as the stuff upon which it works. There is no necessity in the essential nature of mind, sense and life that they should be so limited. For the physical sense organs are not the creators of sense perceptions, but themselves a creation, the instruments, and here a necessary convenience for the life, for the common cosmic sense. In other words, life has created the sense organs for its own convenience here, but it need not use them. That's what he's saying. Themselves instruments here of convenience. The nervous system and the vital organs are not the creators of life's action and reaction, but themselves a creation, the instruments, and here a necessary convenience for the cosmic life force. If life has to manifest in matter, necessarily it has to create nerves, which is a combination of life and matter. Okay? That's what he's saying. If the nerves are not there, what will happen? It's interesting. You just think about it. The senses can't work without the nerves. Senses won't be able to work without the nerves. So, the brain is not the creator of thought, but itself the creation, the instrument, and here a necessary convenience of the cosmic mind. So it is mind that has created for itself. It wants to enter into matter, and it has entered into matter, but it cannot operate there by its own laws. It has to submit itself to the laws of matter. Therefore, it creates brain. Okay? So, the necessity is then not absolute, but teleological. Teleological means with an aim. Its aim is to use mind at the material level. That's what he's saying. Teleology, the doctrine of final causes, okay, is a doctrine explaining phenomena by their ends or purposes. It has a purpose. The creation of the mind, the purpose is to use mind in the physical world. Because you can go to the mental level, your consciousness can rise to the mental level, and their matter will not have any influence on you. Your consciousness can go to the mental level, you are in the pure mind level. Matter doesn't have any influence there. Okay? So that's what he's saying. Teleology. Okay. Is a result of a divine. The necessity is then not absolute, but teleological. It is the result of a divine cosmic will in the material universe, which intends to posit here a physical relation between sense and its object. Establishes here a material formula and a law of conscious force, and creates by it physical images of conscious being to serve as the initial, dominating and determining fact of the world in which we live. If these senses are not there, the physical world will not exist for you. Very clear. If you are blind, deaf and no senses are there, the physical world will not exist. So necessarily, life has to create senses so that it can exist in the physical world. Otherwise it will be a meaningless existence. The necessity then is to create the physical images of conscious being to serve as the initial, dominating and determining fact of the in which we live. It is not a fundamental law of being, but a constructive principle necessitated by the intention of the spirit to evolve in a world of matter. In other words, normal man is using senses to interact with the physical world. But a yogi can interact with the physical world without senses. He can use manas, the pure action of manas, to know your thoughts, to know your feelings and enter into relation with you. It doesn't need the senses. In fact, it is so clear that you don't need senses. When you are dreaming, you are seeing and you are hearing. But you are not using your eyes and your ears. So, subtle senses do exist. Subtle senses do exist. No? When you are seeing...
It creates a drishti.
That's right. So, it's a subtle sense when you are using subtle senses when you are dreaming. So, but you think it is imagination, but it's not imagination. It is real. Okay. So
maybe more appropriate to call it the sense in its actual essential activity.
Yes.
Without the use of the material organ.
Yes. That's right. That's what I mean by subtle sense.
Like mother, for example, she sees Ganesha walking into her vision. So it's a vision. She's seeing it. She's not seeing it with the eyes.
No, absolutely. In fact, one can develop these capacities also of seeing subtle things. When the third eye opens, you start seeing subtle things.
I would like to ask about this extraordinary growth of the human body. In the Middle Ages, the time of King Arthur, a tall man was about 5'4". And today we have boys who are 6'4" and much higher. How is this growth of the body happening?
Is that a fact?
Yeah, it's a fact.
Oh. That would be purely physical reason, huh? You are having better nourishment perhaps? I don't know. I don't know. About better nourishment, I doubt, because the savages used to eat meat. So I don't know. You have any answer to that?
In fact, I have heard the opposite. Not about King Arthur, but they say that the people of the Mahabharata time, for example, they were much...
They were huge.
Yeah.
They were?
What I've heard, that they were very tall, very huge compared to what humanity is today, height-wise. Even this example is coming to my mind, this famous battle of Alexander and Porus. So that Porus was 7 feet.
Achha.
Yes, it is 300 BC and he was an Indian living on the northwest and he is reported to be around 7 feet in height.
I didn't know this. That's why I asked if it's a fact.
It may be a racial characteristic also of the people of that region.
Yes. For example, the Chinese In the south, they eat rice. In the north, they eat wheat. In the north, they're huge people. In the south, they're small people.
Yeah. Actually, what you are saying is quite interesting because I have been noticing this. When I was born 80 years ago, and the average Indian height at that time was 5 feet something. Okay, but today I see all the children in knowledge are much taller than the average height. They are all very tall. I would think only of physical nourishment as one of the causes. Definitely their diet is changed and they are having better nourishment. But I don't know. But this is what comes to my mind. But it's a fact that most of the children nowadays, the male children, they are taller. In fact, it was quite striking for me.
It could be the supermind also.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, certainly. It's having an effect even in the physical world.
It generates the aspiration for being taller when you are growing up, and that aspiration gets a response, and the body is not rigid like that. It is flexible, so it grows more.
Very
It
possible.
depends on aspiration.
Very possible. So,
I'll just, because I'm mentioning the body, I found that passage which I was referring to. It's in On Education, volume 12 of the Mother, page 203. So the question has been asked to her, how should one read your books and the books of Sri Aurobindo, etc.? And her reply is, this force received in the calm and silence will do its work of light, and if needed, will create in the brain the necessary cells for the understanding. So this is what she's saying. Will create in the brain the necessary cells for the understanding. The date is 2nd November 1959.
but could we not interpret this in a slightly different way, that create means the cells will undergo a change, and not that new cells are being created, but the cells will undergo a change. We could say in that way. Yeah. In fact, that's what happens. When light enters the mind of a yogi, if electrodes are put into his brain, you will see that they are actually sparking. All these researches are being done nowadays. Okay. So in this para, he has told you that even in the field of matter, if life enters into it and mind enters it, although they are superior principles, they have to submit themselves to the laws of matter. Now he takes up the next. Okay. That is the next. In the next grade of substance, the initial dominating, determining fact is no longer substantial form or force, but life and conscious desire. Therefore, the world beyond this material plane must be a world based upon a conscious cosmic vital energy, prana, a force of vital seeking and a force of desire and their self-expression, and not upon an inconscient or subconscious will, taking the form of a material force and energy. All the forms, bodies, forces, life movements, sense movements, thought movements, developments, culminations, self-fulfillments of that world must be dominated and determined by this initial fact of conscious life, to which matter and mind must submit themselves, must start from that, base themselves upon that, be limited or enlarged by its laws, powers, capacities, limitations. And if mind there seeks to develop yet higher possibilities, still it must then too take account of the original vital formula of desire force, its purpose and its demand upon the divine manifestation. Exactly what we discussed. In the life world, all the others have to submit to the principle of life force. And what is that? He is telling you, desire. Okay? Yeah. Therefore, the world beyond this material plane must be a world based upon a conscious cosmic vital energy, prana. Okay? He is using 4 words: conscious cosmic vital energy, prana, a force of vital seeking and a force of desire. Desire with a decap. It's a principle. And their self-expression, and not upon an inconscient or subconscious will, taking the form of a material force and energy. So it is prana that operates there, and mind also has to submit itself to the laws of prana, and also matter also has to submit itself to the laws of prana. Exactly what we discussed, he is saying that. I didn't know that it's in this chapter itself. That's what he's saying. Okay. Now the third one. Okay. I think this is quite simple what he's saying. Then, so too with the higher gradations. The next in the series must be governed by the dominating and determining factor of mind. Okay? Substance there must be subtle and flexible enough to assume the shapes directly imposed upon it by mind, to obey its operations, to submit itself to its demands for self-expression and self-fulfillment. Okay? Matter itself has to be molded to the rules of and the regulations of mind. And that's a brain. The relations of sense and substance too must have a corresponding subtlety and flexibility, and must be determined not by the relations of physical organ with physical object, but of mind with the subtler substance upon which it works. The life of such a world would be the servant of mind, in a sense of which our weak mental operations and our limited, coarse and rebellious vital faculties can have no adequate conception. There, mind dominates as the original formula. Its purpose prevails. Its demand overrides all others in the law of the divine manifestation. At a yet higher reach, supermind, or intermediately principles touched by it. Okay, so we'll come back to it. Intermediately principles touched by it, or still higher, a pure bliss, a pure conscious power, or pure being, replace mind as the dominating principle, and we enter into those ranges of cosmic existence which, to the old Vedic seers, were worlds of illuminated divine existence and the foundation of what they termed immortality, and which later Indian religions imaged as figures in the Brahmaloka or Goloka, some supreme self-expression of the being as spirit, in which the soul, liberated into its highest perfection, possesses the infinity and beatitude of the eternal Godhead. So, he's saying the same thing operates at all the other levels. At every level of consciousness higher, that principle dominates there. But there is a constant interaction between all these words. Okay? So, Brahmaloka and Goloka. Goloka is the light, and there is, I have a note here. Okay? He's saying Brahmaloka is probably the higher mind. Okay? Goloka is the illumined mind. Anandaloka, intuition and overmind. So, these are the Indian terms for these planes of consciousness. Which Sri uses different words. He says higher mind, then is Brahmaloka, because there is a Brahman consciousness, is the higher mind. Okay? Then the Goloka, illumined mind. Light is the principle there. Okay? Anandaloka, intuition and overmind.
There might be a slight correction here, because when he's talking about Brahmaloka and Goloka, he's talking of the worlds beyond the supermind. And these.
Okay. In that case, wait 1 second. Or intermediately principles touched by it.
These are the four.
First of all, or still higher, a pure bliss, pure conscious power and a pure being, replace mind as the dominating principle, and we enter into those ranges of cosmic existence which to the old Vedic seers were worlds of illuminated divine existence and the foundations of what they termed immortality, and which later Indian religions imaged in figures such as the Brahmaloka or the Goloka.
And Brahmaloka corresponds to the Sat level. So it's like the highest. Satchidanand also, in that also the highest. Goloka is generally called the world of Krishna. So that would be probably Ananda.
Light.
Light. Go literally means light, but Golok is also.
I'm not sure of that because he's saying intermediately principles touched by it. So this,
Yet higher reach supermind.
now I've understood what you're saying.
So what I understand is these principles touched by it intermediately. These are overmind, intuitive mind.
That's right. That's right.
But when he's saying Brahmaloka and Goloka, as I understand, he's referring to the Satchidananda worlds.
I don't know. I'm not so sure because it's a construction of the sentence. Okay, so he's saying that there's a gradation. There are intermediate and there are higher, and then he's again coming back to Brahmaloka, Goloka. So it's a little. For understanding this, sometimes we have to refer to other passages. Yeah.
No, if we read this,
There is also Janaloka.
that's Ananda Loka. Jana means Ananda.
Yes.
If we just forget this intermediately principles touched by it and at a yet higher reach supermind or still higher. So seems
That is very clear. That is pure bliss is Ananda, pure conscious power is Chit, okay, and pure being is Sat. That is sure. Replace mind as the dominating principle, and we enter into those ranges of cosmic existence. Now, cosmic existence. So it cannot be higher because there is no cosmos there.
but that is also part of ultimately.
Cosmic existence. So in the above the supermind, there is no cosmos.
There is no,
No.
Ananda Chitan Sat worlds.
No, they are not cosmos.
What is that?
It is supermind. They are the unmanifested worlds.
Little.
They are the unmanifested worlds. It is supermind that creates the world.
How can we call unmanifested world? It's a oxymoron. World by itself means a manifestation. So
No.
how can we say?
No, that is sure. That it is supermind that creates a world. So when he's talking of cosmos, okay, it is certainly lower.
I am also confused. I am not sure.
No. This world, cosmic mind is now 100% sure. Because it is the supermind that creates the cosmos. Okay. We go back to the fundamental, the
Supermind is above cosmic existence.
supermind is
Supermind is above cosmic existence.
about.
It creates the cosmos as we know it.
No, can we? Supermind is above the cosmic existence.
Oh, of course. It is the origin. Of course. When Srivamsa speaks of three levels of the divine, transcendent, cosmic, and individual. Okay? So, the individual is the smallest, the least. Then the cosmos is the middle. And the transcendent is, you can have touches of the transcendent even in the higher mind levels. Okay? That's possible.
But now the supermind is no longer transcendent because it has come down and it is part of this cosmos now.
No, wait. No, wait. The supermind exists there. The supermind exists. Part of it has come down here.
It's no longer transcendent for us. That's what I'm trying to say. Is it still transcendent for us?
Pure transcendence, yes. Because, see, pure mind, when you...
What you're saying that supermind is the creator of all cosmos.
Yes.
Then what are these three worlds called the Ananda, Chit and Sat? Who created them?
Oh, okay. I think I have an answer for that. You get reflections of these in the lower planes of consciousness.
But they exist, right?
They exist.
They exist above the supermind.
Yeah. But whether they exist as one solid block or separately
Whatever.
is a question.
No, but they exist and they exist above this.
Mother says that the evolution will never cease.
Yes.
Above supermind,
Yes.
there will be
Ananda
Ananda.
Lokas.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
Lokas.
Yeah.
And then Satchidananda.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but also Srivamsa says that the evolution will never cease. But supermind onwards, after the supermind descends, it will be an evolution from knowledge to further knowledge, but not from ignorance to knowledge. That is it. It is very clear because go back to the chapter Supermind the Creator. You read that.
The supermind as creator.
Yes, it is a creator.
I agree.
The supermind is a link world.
Creator in the most material world, right?
But
Creation?
It's the creator.
Yeah, like supermind is the creator of the most material world, like bringing that spiritual subtle substance down to the most.
no, it creates all the levels below itself. Overmind, intuition, illumined mind, higher mind, mind, life, body. I like to call that mind, life, body, the world of ignorance, as level 1. Okay? Level 2 is the spiritual planes of consciousness. And all the philosophies that we have in India are all related to that, the spiritual planes of consciousness. And you see things differently there. That's why you have Mayavada, you have Buddhism, you have Jainism. They don't speak about a personal God. They speak only of the impersonal God. So that's why I have seen elsewhere, Brahmaloka and Goloka, what I told you just now, I think because Janaloka also is there. He is not mentioning Janaloka here.
Janaloka is Anandaloka, very clearly.
So Goloka would be the mind of light. And Brahmaloka would probably be the higher mind level. But each one is a journey of discovery. When you read something else, suddenly you get, oh, now it is clear.
In the sequence in which the word Janaloka comes, so it is Bhu, Bhuva, Swaha, Maha, Jana, Tapa, Brahmaloka or Satloka. So Brahmaloka is the highest, the Satloka.
Like,
That's
can
what
we
it is.
say that even within these lokas, like there can be gradations, right? Like there can be a Brahmaloka at a higher mind level.
Reflection of it.
It is there.
Reflection of it.
The
Reflection.
principles are there in all the principles.
Yes.
So it's a 7 cross 7. It's a 49.
Yes.
Yes.
That's right.
And that is when I'm saying it's 7.
Yeah.
If I say it is 12, then it is 12 cross 12.
Right.
Yeah.
Everything is everywhere.
Everything is everywhere.
Yeah.
Everything is everywhere.
Right.
And there is no gaps like this. It's a gradient if you want to imagine.
Yeah. As
There is no steps like this with gaps in between.
Exactly.
It's a slope.
That's right. There's an interpenetration of it. In fact, there's a whole chapter on that. The one chapter is there. What is it called? It's called Ascent and Integration. Ascent and Integration. That chapter explains that how you ascend, but it integrates itself with the lower. Integrates itself with the lower. Okay, and that is exactly what Sri Aurobindo was doing also in his yoga. Okay, every time he was rising to another level, he would see whether that level could be used in the lower, and he was using that for his Savitri. He used to, every time he went to another level of consciousness, he would rewrite Canto 1 to see what effect it has in the physical world. So, Ascent and Integration.
Gautanga, where is the chapter title Ascent and Integration?
Ascent and Integration is, there you are, 730, page 730. The evolutionary process, Ascent and Integration. In that one he explains this.
And I think like the ascension cannot happen without the integration. Like the integration has to.
No, it can happen. Because that's what the ascetic is doing. The ascetic is not integrating. He is going there and disappearing. He doesn't care for the world. That's possible. But Sri Aurobindo wants a transformation of the lowest. That's why he used to. You know how many editions there are, how many versions there are of Canto 1 of Savitri?
16. 16.
And all of them are in the archives.
I've seen them.
So this was the experiment he was making.
What you are saying about the integration and ascent part, so in one of the letters in the purpose of Avatarhood section in the letters on yoga, Sri Aurobindo says that Krishna was leading by the normal, this thing of evolution, and the next normal step would have been the supermind. And in fact, he says this, Buddha, like Shankara, made a mistake by shooting to the supranormal. He uses the word mistake. And he says Krishna was leading by the normal course of evolution, and the next normal step would be the supermind, which would integrate everything. So
what Buddha did, what impact did it have?
Buddha jumped to the absolute negation, into the
Did that take us back?
feature, absolute featureless, without going through the intermediate steps of higher mind, illumined mind and all these things. He says there is so much of beauty, so much of wonderment in those worlds. Why didn't you enjoy that? You have the right to disappear. In fact, in one of the places, Sri Aurobindo says, when you make your mind silent and go to the higher mind level, okay, you have many choices. The soul can do many things. The soul can decide to remain static in that condition forever. That's also possible. Or it can decide to go into the Supreme and merge. Its existence disappears. That also is possible. But it can also choose to remain and work in the physical world again. So,
This is the beauty of Book 11, where the divine asks her 3 times to merge into him and forget about the earth.
yeah.